Hey everybody, this is Joanna and welcome back to Teen Book Tuesday. So a couple quick reminders. Our summer reading program for teens ends on August 18th, so if you haven't turned in your reading form yet, please get it to us. Also, this Friday at 2 o'clock we have our second cosplay workshop. This week we'll be making capes, so bring a bed sheet or some other material with you if you can. And also on Monday at 2 o'clock at the Wildwood Crest Library, we will be doing a marshmallow launcher creation activity, so it's going to be super fun. So our book for this week is Soldier Boy by Keeley Hutton. And this book is not a book that you really read for fun. This is a hard book. And it's not that the words are hard, that's not what I mean. The reading isn't hard. So this book is hard because it's about child soldiers and basically what happens when you force kids to fight in wars that adults start. And it's not really like the Hunger Games where you know it's not true. The things in this book actually happen to real people. So Soldier Boy is the story of Ricky, who is a real person, and he was a teenager in the 1980s in Uganda, which is a country in Africa. And at that time, Uganda was in the middle of a civil war between a rebel army and the government troops. So according to the author's note, all the events in this book are true. All these things really happened to Ricky. And this book counts as fiction, even though it's based on a true story, because the author had to recreate the dialogue that happened throughout Ricky's life. So in the 1980s, Ricky is captured by the rebel army and his family is killed. And he and his brother are forced to become soldiers for the rebel army led by Joseph Kony. And in between all the chapters about Ricky, we also have chapters from the perspective of a boy named Samuel. And according to the author's note, Samuel is not a real person. He's more a representation of the thousands and thousands of child soldiers. So Samuel's story is that he was a child soldier and was left for dead by the rebels and is now being cared for at a hospital. So we have Ricky in the 1980s and Samuel's story is happening in the late 2000s. And the book kind of alternates between the two. So normally I'm a little bit skeptical of based on a true story books. You never really know what the author has made up and what is true. And that's why I think it's really important that this book has an author's note that describes Hutton's writing process and what the true story actually was. And so I would advise you guys, whenever you see a book that does have an author's note like this, give it a read through and it will give you some more background on the story. And although this is a hard book, I think it's also a really important book because it does give us a more realistic portrayal of the effect that violence has on people. A lot of times there are young adult books that are kind of like, oh, there was a battle and then it was fine afterwards, right? So I don't really have anything against fiction books, but I think it's also important to have more realistic representations of what the impact of violence is. You know, violence is a real thing and people deal with it, real people deal with it. So who would I recommend Soldier Boy to? Fans of creative nonfiction. If you like reading nonfiction, you might like this as well. And also, if you don't know very much about the country of Uganda and what its history is, this might be an interesting starting point for you. Alright, so next week we'll have something a little bit happier. I just finished reading Dumplin' by Julie Murphy, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about it. See you next week.